I took a bunch of disorganized CDs at the bottom of my TV display and a thrift store CD organizer, cleaned them up, and organized them into this beautiful display. Let's find out how today on Millennial Milktoast. I'm going to be showing you how I took a bunch of cluttered CDs that I didn't even want to look at and managed to carve out a space for them while also making a media viewing space a little bit more roomy. This all came about because I was doing another video that involved stacking up a bunch of VHSs over here, and during the course of making that video I realized that I didn't really like the way that I had this space utilized, and so I took a brief video explaining that, which I'm going to show now. Now, the way that this all really started was with me having my record collection split between two shelves. I had some records in this shelf, and there's still a few around on this shelf, but really I moved them all over to the IKEA shelf, and when I did that, that was in part because I had a bunch of CDs on the bottom shelf there and also on the other IKEA shelf that had my TV. And so I just filled that in with records. And that really worked out well because at the same time I was making this video in this corner and I wanted to clear that out and put this CD case that I had found at the Habitat for Humanity Restore. And I had that for a few weeks or even a couple months stored. And so now I'm going to get it out and get to work. Now usually these things are set in stone. The way that they're designed, they don't come out, but this one does. Now what I love about that is that I can deliberately take one or even potentially two of these out and subsequently utilize that freed up space. I'm gonna dust that out, don't have no fear. But I can place CDs that don't otherwise fit up here in the case. Let's see how this fares. See, and it still holds a CD, even. It's so well designed. So I'm really excited because for the first time in a very long time, I'm going to have my CD collection on full display so that all of these pieces of music are within arm's reach. Yeah, I'm really excited. Let's get to it. So I've been collecting my entire life. I've had a bunch of different types of collections. When I'm different ages, I've collected different things, and my collections have varied in size and sustainability. They've also varied in their longevity. Some things that I have collected maybe have not been bought in a very long time. So here's the thing with having so many different things that I've collected, and last year reaching kind of a saturation point with even stuff like VHS tapes. So now that I've reached this kind of universal saturation point where I've collected almost everything that I want from anything that I want, and in fact I have too much, and I need to refine what I have.
So, as it is, I've managed to free up a little bit of space here, give that some breathing room. And one of the things I do have to figure out, I removed the extension cord that I had there. It was going behind the couch over to this outlet. I need to replace that. I am going to probably put a strip with probably a 6-foot cord and have the strip go to like right about here so that I can plug the lamp in over there. That lamp, the mermaid lamp, would like to take and potentially put it up here. And I put the bamboo, of course, because it aesthetically fits with the room divider. I got to do a little bit more cleaning.
It's been a long time since I really collected CDs. They are among the many different types of media that I once collected passionately. A lot of the purchases or the music that are cataloged aren't really reflective of my current music tastes. And that can be interesting because it's a window into the past. But it can additionally be a bit of a hindrance on the value to like the person in possession of it, the collector. You can have something in your CDs that, you know, it doesn't necessarily reflect you. It reflects the desire to have access to that. Anyway, I got a few neat things to show off. Okay, let's start here. Now I got these cool, I love these things. They're kind of like those record crates, but they're for CDs. My grandmother had these, and she was going to get rid of them at some point, and I insisted on not getting rid of them. They're some old choir concert recordings. Gonna go in the CD case. All right, we got Operation See, I have 2 Operation Ivies. Why? I got like a number of homebrewed type stuff. Like this is, you know, I don't know, some dude. I'll put it in the listen pile. I'll listen to it once. Goodness, I don't even remember burning that. Okay, I got... Somebody gave me a copy of A7X's City of Evil. Keeping that. I think that might be from, like, my freshman year of high school. I got Monkey's Greatest Hits. This is fun. I grew up with this CD. Specifically the one with this cover. I actually do not have this CD anymore. This one. My dad eventually lost a bunch of CDs, and he still had the cases, so I took the booklet from this because I grew up with this being one of the very first music CDs I ever listened to. Full stop. This and Tom Petty's Greatest Hits. So I decided that I didn't like the artwork from this one, and I decided to just pop it on here. I love it. Classic rock. Speak of the Devil, Tom Petty, Greatest Hits. I have a good friend who made this dope CD. It's a Female Rage compilation. I'm going to put that in the listen pile. It's actually a really cool set. It's got some like punk songs. Actually, you know what? That's going to go in the punk pile. Punk and ska. Okay, we got a few, these are road trip CDs. I'm going to just put them in the book. Eddie Vedder, Into the Wild, one of my absolute favorites. Also, unconventional case. This one, though, I think will work. Yeah, thank you, Eddie Vedder. Then we got my favorite David Wilcox album, the only one I've really ever listened to, with the infamous ARC sticker, of course. This is called Live Songs and Stories. This is a phenomenal set of acoustic music. It's like being in a coffee shop listening to David Wilcox wax philosophic and play some killer tunes. Phenomenal CD, but stream it, whatever. Check it out. I love this one. Okay, we got Once. Music from the motion picture. I Feel Silly. I've never actually seen the movie. I really loved the song when it came out. I heard it plugged on KBCO, which I used to listen to a lot more. And I remember they plugged this hard, and I really dug it, so I bought the CD. I was probably about, what would it be, about 18? Yeah, I was about 18 when this came out. Once I became an adult, just could not afford to willy-nilly buy any CD I wanted anymore. This will go in soundtracks, of course. Soundtracks. Hedwig and the Angry Inch. Amazing story, soundtrack. I've seen a local theater company do it, and they crushed it, and then I later saw this movie, and it was amazing. I will say John Cameron Mitchell also did a film called Short Bus. That was pretty darn good, so that goes in soundtracks. Got Pink Floyd Division Bell, classic. We got Elvis Sun Sessions. That Elvis Sun Sessions is pretty darn cool. This is a neat set, but I'm getting rid of it. It's the Y2K album. All it has is a bunch of like public domain type music that people could listen to, and then it's also supposed to have like some type of stuff in it that would hypothetically help a person, but I don't know. I'm not feeling it. There it is, the Y2K album. Let's put that on the outgoing. Strange Days. Speaking of the Y2K album, we got the Strange Days soundtrack. This is a phenomenal cyberpunk film. I haven't really listened to the soundtrack. I will give it a shot, though, because it had some pretty trippy music. Yeah, it's got a Peter Gabriel song. Yeah, put it in the soundtracks. Got Linkin Park. Rest in Peace, Chester. From Zero's pretty dope. I can't say too much about it. I don't want to get into a diatribe, but I like it. So this is going to be one of the special like albums that it's like, okay, this is like one of the foundational high school albums. Like I listen to this a lot. I got Don Henley, Actual Miles, Greatest Hits. For a time, I could not listen to Boys of Summer or All She Wants to Do Is Dance or Dirty Laundry online. So I just relented. I went to Twist and Shout in Denver. They had a copy of this for $6. And so now I can listen to it whenever I want. Is that what it is? An American Prayer, Jim Morrison, music by The Doors. Got Green Day, Revolution Radio, amazing late career album. I'm Still Breathing, still ranks among my favorites. So that goes in the punk pile. All right, let's take a look. Here, this will be quick and dirty. I got some Big D CDs. Big D in the Kids Table. There we go. Boy, I got a bunch of them. Okay, so I got Fluent and Stroll, my favorite Big D and the Kids Table album, signed by the lead singer, David McWayne. Amazing individual, amazing performer. Great stuff. And then we have easily one of the most important CDs that I own. This is called Green Day, Bullet in a Bible. It's a combination CD DVD set. Now this came out, I want to say when I was in my sophomore or junior year of high school. I was big into Green Day. I really liked American Idiot, and I asked my grandma at the time to get this for me. And I could be mistaken. I might be misremembering. But I'm pretty sure this is the last Christmas gift that my grandmother gave me. So it means a lot to me. More than almost all these other CDs combined, to be honest. So that's kind of what this is about. This doesn't really need to be sitting in a box surrounded by dozens of CDs that I don't want. clouding my memory and the significance of the objects that I connect to those memories. And so this one goes in a, sentimental pile, obviously. Speaking of sentimental, not to be outdone, it's pretty amazing that they would be this. There must be a reason they were this close together. This is Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. This is a bass, just CD. No bonus tracks. It is probably after that Green Day CD, the second most important CD that I own. Why? So, I think I was at Westminster Mall with my good friend Zach. He co-hosts a podcast with me. We're on hiatus right now, but you should check it out. It's called Last of the 80s Kids. I'll link it in the description. Anyway, so I was with Zach at a Sam Goodies in Westminster Mall, which is no longer there, of course. And I was talking to him about the Beatles, and I told him I didn't really care about the Beatles. And for some reason, Zach at the time was very much into the Beatles. And he grabbed this, and he insisted that I get it. He bought it for me. He bought me this copy of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. We were probably 13, 14 years old, tops. And he gave this to me. I think we were 13. I think we were in 8th grade. I think I had known Zach a short time, and he got this for me. I fell in love with the Beatles on the strength of this album. It's got a beautiful booklet, I will say that. It's got a fantastic little booklet that has pictures and whatnot, has a little guide on who's on the front, which is fun. It's a phenomenal CD. It was a wonderful gesture. So this is one of my most prized CDs. So I want this on display. I want to be able to tell people that story, or I want to remind myself of that story. So there's something that goes into collecting that's hard to describe, and it's like this combination of wanting something that's practical, but also wanting something that connects to a memory. At least it's that way for me. This is just kind of a comprehensive John Lennon solo greatest hits. That's pretty solid. Yeah. It's even got the live version to Come Together, which is pretty darn cool. And it's also got New York City, which is fun. I'm Stepping Out. And it additionally has, what was the song that Nobody Told Me. Pretty darn good. Yeah, some great tunes. Some songs from Milk and Honey, Men Love Avenue, some of those later releases, and additionally some from New York City. So you have some songs that never really, you never really hear because they're not on Imagine, or they weren't singles during that period when Lennon was releasing more singles than he was worrying about albums. Anyway, it's an amazing set. This goes in classic rock, I suppose, although the Beatles deserve their own subsection in classic rock, which is what I did with my records. I have the Imagine. This is like a remastered one, and I think that this is kind of like a great example of how CDs started to lose their appeal to me. It's digitally remastered and remixed and everything, and it's a beautiful set, but I think at a certain point I started to wonder why I even bought it. If all I wanted was access to the music, I didn't necessarily need access to it all the time. I got a couple great Paul McCartney releases. I got his Back in the USA. I don't think I owned this when I was really into Paul. I think I bought it later on after the fact because it's a fantastic set of music. My friend Zach had this, listened to it all the time. We watched the concert film as well. It's a great live recording from Sir Paul McCartney. And that's going to go in the Beatles pile, which, believe me, there's going to be a substantial... Well, it goes in classic rock, but ultimately that's going to end up being a Beatles pile, too. We got Chaos and Creation in the backyard. My mom is such a wonderful person. I remember she did some grocery shopping at Walmart. I was probably 14, again. She saw that this album had come out, and she bought it for me at Walmart. She just handed it to me. It was very sweet. I wasn't expecting it. So I'll always treasure this album for that reason. It's a really good album, too, by the way. Fine Line is fun. Too Much Rain is beautiful. What was it? Follow Me. Oh, Follow Me is gorgeous. One wonderful album. This was given to me by a very good friend of mine. He's currently working as a recording artist. He's been making electronic music, and he's been pushing his dream forward, and I really respect that. Back in the day, when we were in high school, he made me a copy of Dean Gray's American Edit. This is a pretty cool remix of the entire American Idiot album. He went the extra mile, though. He, made the CD, basically. Like, he put artwork on it, and then he put the track listing. This is, irreplaceable. It's one of the best things that I own as far as my CDs go. And, it's a flimsy little crappy case. It's a burned CD, and it's one of the most valuable CDs I own. This is the copy of the score that I had in high school. Used to listen to this bad boy on my Discman. Or not my Discman, because I bought the cheap-ass Dura brand at Walmart with maybe Anti-Skip, maybe. This is an amazing album. Way back in the day on MySpace, a lady named Brandi Carlile became a big deal. Her song Turpentine was promoted on 97.3. I loved that song. And then I heard The Story. And my God, that there's songs that hit you like a freight train. And the Story is one of those songs. I feel bad that I haven't kept up with Brandi Carlile as much as I should have, because I love this album so much. It's beautifully paced. It's got some great production. Her voice is immaculate. And the songs are fantastic. I think that Until I Die, track 10, is heartbreaking and powerful. I think that, goodness, so many good songs. There is not a dud on this album. Hey everyone, sorry for the rough transition that's about to happen, but basically going through the CDs initially took a lot longer than I anticipated, and I wanted to actually organize them and start evaluating them and showing you more of the important ones rather than spending all of my time finding the important ones. Now, in addition to showing you some of the highlights from my CD collection, I additionally want to give you a little context around why exactly I'm making a video in this style. So my partner's really fond of a YouTube content creator named Caroline Winkler. She does some interesting videos about organizing interior spaces, interior design, furniture choices, design choices, the logic behind how a space is organized, the intentionality of it, all that kind of cool stuff. And I've seen a few of her videos, and I like them. They're pretty interesting, and my partner really likes them. And so one of the things that I thought would be fun was that I could maybe emulate that person's style a little bit in the process of organizing all of my physical media. So I'm trying to just give this a bit of an intentionality, a bit of a spin of intentionality towards fostering an open, breathable space where I can access a lot of my physical media and feel like I can enjoy it without being inundated and surrounded by it. Now, when I was younger, in high school and even in middle school, I would frequently rearrange my living spaces. I do really like to mix it up by moving furniture around and rearranging how I live within a space. And it's kind of funny, maybe my junior year of high school, we had to take one of those career tests, and my results actually told me that I should pursue a career as a feng shui consultant. And feng shui, essentially, I'm not formally trained at all, but basically it involves the flow of a room and the way in which one arranges a room in order to facilitate like the flow of movement, and maybe if you get a little deeper, like the flow of human interaction and like ideas, like facilitating a space in which maybe even thinking can be influenced by certain design choices. So anyway, that's all very heady. And all I'm really doing is putting my CDs in a case. What I want to do is just tell you what some of my categories are, basically. So I have classic rock, and additionally I have a few Beatles CDs. I don't really have enough for them to be their own section. So I have classic rock / Beatles. Then I have kind of my ska, punk, reggae section. Okay, and beyond that, I have Gen X classics. So these are like some grunge, Britpop, some 80s and 90s kind of college rock or alternative rock, like Midnight Oil, Del Mitri. Then I got a Warren Zevon section, augmented slightly by a small singer-songwriter section. I have a pretty small, sad to say, rap section, but I do have a few CDs in there that I really like. I have what I would basically call my new Y2K alt-rock kind of section, so I got a lot of variety there. I got like Daft Punk, and I also have The Killers, and I have Linkin Park. It's just a really grab bag. I have Radiohead. Oh no, Radiohead's over with Gen X. That's right, I moved them. Anyway, also have a section of soundtracks. And additionally, I grabbed a number of VHS tapes, DVDs, and movies that I think could reasonably be organized with music in such a way that, they kind of belong there more than with the movies overall. My thinking around collecting CDs now in the year 2025, when CDs kind of hit their peak almost 2 decades ago. Why CDs? Why should a person collect CDs or keep CDs around? Here we go. Now, one of the very first things that you're going to find out about CDs is that they're overall pretty cheap, especially compared to other physical media that's gotten popular. So records, as a great example, are, they're at least maybe like $2 or $3 at a given thrift store for the absolute mostly trash records that nobody wants. And then it significantly jumps up to about $10 for, I would say, recognizable, reasonably critically well-regarded classic rock and etc., but mostly rock. Maybe easy listening, maybe folk rock, maybe some adult alternative type stuff, but overall, the majority of those are going to be rock. Anywho, it just goes up from there. Almost any other genre, the records just were not produced in large enough amounts for the audiences that exist today. Whether that's metal, whether that's rap, honestly, 2 genres that at this point in history there are far more fans of than there were in, say, like 1986. So there's a problem right there for somebody entering the physical media collecting game, and they're a big music fan, and they want to collect some rap or collect some metal. They're going to be dropping like $30 on every single album. Now, this is where CDs come in, provide comparable sound quality, far greater durability, portability, etc., for a fraction of the cost. This is the thing that killed vinyl the first time around. Ultimately, CDs, if you really kind of logistically evaluate them, they come out on top almost every time. And especially for a young person that's working and trying to stretch their dollar and maybe even stretch their space. Rather than keeping them in all of these heavy plastic jewel cases, a person can keep dozens, if not hundreds of CDs in a CD book like this. It's something worth considering if space is an important factor in how you collect physical media. Not everyone has a bunch of space to expend on their collection. Okay, so you got CDs provide high quality sound, they're a high quality product, they're cheap. Additionally, you can find a lot of used ones. I would mark that as a huge positive because there's a vibrant reseller market. And additionally, I would say that if you want to be extravagant, there are some amazing deluxe editions of CDs that that a person who wanted to, you know, kind of be like a music connoisseur, but can't really afford to buy a bunch of maybe like vinyl record represses, you know, the next best thing, and arguably even a better thing, would be to purchase like a deluxe edition of an album that comes with a bonus disc and contains a bunch of B-sides and whatnot. Okay, I compromised. I put all the greatest hits collections together. Turns out there were a lot of greatest hits in there. All right. I think I'm going to put Warren Zevon over here. Warren Zevon is one of my absolute favorite musicians. Another thing to consider is that CDs are unmatched as a reliable music option in the car, particularly for road trips, because these things are reliable, durable, and they're space-saving. You should consider how well the album works when you drive to it. Now, a lot of my CDs, I love them because I've taken them on road trips, or I've put them in my car and listened to them for months on end on rotation. I decided to take a few CDs and put them in my car. I picked one of my Big D and the Kids Table CDs. It's called For the Damned, the Dumb, and the Delirious. I drove around listening to it. Break them down so I can be free! Not only did I enjoy having the CD in the car well after I recorded the footage, but what ended up happening was I listened to that album multiple times over the next week because it was cycling through if I didn't want to choose something on my phone or on the radio. So the huge benefit of this is if you have a binder just full of CDs that you've evaluated or mixed CDs that you've made, you can have an entire library of music on these extremely durable compact discs. Oh, so one other reason why anyone who's interested in getting into physical media kind of on the cheap should consider CDs is the universal availability of compact disc players. I'll give you a little anecdote just to illustrate that. I have a really good friend who has a 4K Blu-ray player. Okay, and that 4K Blu-ray player is connected to their stereo system, which also has a vinyl record and I think a tape player as well. So they got all these different, audio options, and then they got their video options. And so one day my friend mentioned like, oh, well, I can't really listen to that CD. And I was like, why not? You have a compact disc player. It's one of the features of a 4K Blu-ray player. Anything really that plays a DVD, a Blu-ray, is going to play a CD. The CD is kind of the foundational technology, and all of those other technologies are kind of born from that innovation. And so, generally speaking, those disk drives, even some laser disc drives, read CDs. So you probably have a CD player in your house, multiple CD players, and you don't even know it. As I was looking through these CDs and evaluating which ones I actually wanted and which ones I wanted to display and so on, one of the things I started to think about was what are the reasons why I want to keep CDs and what are the reasons why I want to get rid of CDs. Here are a couple good reasons I have for keeping some of my CDs. Number one is sentimental value of a CD. You know, when I think about this CD that my friend Zach got for me, okay, this can't be replaced. Even if I had to get rid of almost this entire collection and I made maybe a list of 15 to keep, that Sgt. Pepper CD would certainly be in it. So that's like one of the biggest reasons to keep a CD is it has a memory attached to it. Here's one more example. This is a J-pop group called Morning Musume. This is an album that a good friend of mine and actually a coworker too, Chris, made for me. He decided to go on a trip to California, and he told all of his friends that if anybody wanted to go with him, he was going to an anime convention where this group, Morning Musume, was performing in one of their only American performances, to date at that time. It's a beautiful little album. It's actually one of my favorites. A couple highlight Monogatari. Shokan is pretty fun. I'm very fond of Help, and Ship to the Future, unironically, is probably in my top 25 favorite songs of all time. There's something so beautiful about that adorable little J-pop song. So this means the world to me. I love this CD. Another reason to keep a CD is that you enjoy it. So here's a great example. Looking at my rap collection. At the very top, I have the Fugees, The Score. I remember listening to it in my car when I was 22, 24, 29, 32, 34. I remember listening to this on my way to go see Lauryn Hill and the Fugees when they played at the Pepsi Center just about a year and a half ago. Ballerina, my mistake. What are bad reasons to keep or collect CDs? The biggest one, and this is what killed CDs, I think, back in the day, is buying a CD for one song. This has been the bane of the music industry for so long, and you would think the solution would be to, release singles, but believe me, if I went through my 45 collection, I could tell you that that has its own trappings. So, as it goes with CDs, if there's only one or two songs that you actually want to listen to on that CD, you should get rid of it. It is a bad reason to keep a CD, and if you do keep it, that had better be like the best song ever written. Okay, now, by that same token, if you bought an album that was full priced, and you spent like $17, $18 back in the day when it came out, and you're kind of locked in, like, oh, well, I spent like $18 on it. Well, it's not a good reason to keep a CD. One of the ones that I have that I'm getting rid of, Anti-Flag's Bright Lights of America, I kind of like the title track a little. On top of that, I paid full price for it. So as an example, that CD is gone. Just because I bought it at full price, just because I like maybe one song on it, doesn't mean that it needs to stay here. This collection deserves better than single song CDs taking up space. And you deserve better too. You have a limited amount of time on this world, and you can't be clogging it all up with every single CD that comes your way. Here's a great example. 30 Seconds to Mars, This Is War. I think Kings and Queens, This Is War, 100 Suns. It's kind of like the tracks 2 through 6, I would say. Anyway, it's kind of a mid-album. It's got a couple standout tracks. I don't really listen to it anymore, and if I want to get sentimental and throw on 100 Suns, I can just put it on streaming. I don't need a copy. The second reason you may not want to collect CDs. Jewel cases. These things are maybe one of the most universally used disc holders ever. This and the DVD case are probably the most common disc holding technology that you will see across this planet. Jewel cases are really fragile. They kind of scratch easy. They can look immaculate, but then they can also look kind of trashy in the right light. One of the things that I love about jewel cases is that, barring variations in their design, they are generally universal, and you are able to repair them or modify them as needed, unless, of course, it's a special CD. And then, actually, I have one right here. So this is the John Lennon Working Class Hero Definitive Lennon. It's broken. It's a 2 CD set, but the little like interior flap that holds 2 CDs is broken. And if you were to look closely, you could see that the way the jewel case itself is designed is it actually is a 2-disc jewel case. It's a specially designed jewel case with hinges built into the spine. This is a top-of-the-line jewel case, and it's a damn shame that it broke. I still love the set. I'm going to keep it. Here's the thing. This is a great correction because this is a normal-size CD. Here's an example I had ready to go. Now look at this. These both have the same amount of music, roughly. 2 CDs of music. This CD will fit with all the other CDs in this universal case. That's the thing about the jewel cases. Now, they have those pros and those cons. One of the pros, kind of, is that cases generally are designed universally for jewel cases. But again, one of the cons I would say is that these are kind of a pain in the butt. This is very arbitrary, and it's kind of like a grab bag of reasons, but I think it's important. If you have a CD that you are fond of because it's rare, or because you've never seen it before, or maybe it's a CD that you recognized out in the wild. You're out in the wild, you saw a copy of On Her Satanic Majesty's Request, the Rolling Stones' We Wish We Were Sgt. Pepper album. So it's like, oh, I've seen this, I know what it is, therefore I want to own it. It's a terrible reason to own an album, just because you recognize it. The same goes for a lot of other physical media. Believe me, it's a trap I have fallen into probably about 1,000 times at this point in my life. Nonetheless, I got to emphasize that recognizing something, knowing what something is, having heard about it is not necessarily a reason to own something. Additionally, I would say that the rarity of a CD is pretty dubious. I think that just because you have a CD from like a band you've never heard of, just because you have a CD from like a foreign nation, like I'll give you a straight up example. I have this neat set. I found this at a thrift store. It's called High Society Shanghai Divas. I think I've listened to it once, and it's like mostly orchestral music or something, or dance music. I just thought it looked neat. It's conceptualized and conceived by Harry, spelled Herry. Is it good? Is it worth listening to? Is it worth taking up space on the shelf? Probably not. I got about 15 CDs that I'm like, I may actually want to keep them. I'm going to listen to them, give them one more shot to grab me. If they don't, they're out. Now, one of my favorite bands of all time is a little ska group from Boston called Big D and the Kids Table. Now, some of my favorite records are by this group, and so I think Warren Zevon is doing great over here. I'm going to put my Big D and the Kids Table CDs at the top over on this side. I think what I'm going to go for is having like kind of the more classic stuff over here and have the more modern stuff over here. Okay, another thing that I want you to consider is the completist mindset. Now, this applies to a lot of other collecting. And I think that it's really difficult if you love something and you want to own like all of it. So as an example, maybe you're like me and you really love Warren Zevon. I have a substantial amount of Warren Zevon's catalog on CD. One could argue that even in my CD collection, I'm a bit of a completist. Additionally, I have a pretty extensive collection of records of Warren Zevon. So I'm set. I'm a completist as far as that goes. But here's the thing. I can't be a completist about everything. I was a bit of a completist about the Beatles. I have a pretty significant record collection that includes the Beatles solo work, etc., etc. So, I've indulged in completism on occasion. And I think that concept doesn't get brought up a lot, completism, but you need to be aware of it, because if you really love Dark Side of the Moon and you fall into this trap of thinking, oh, I gotta buy, Piper at the Gates of Dawn, I gotta get Metal, I gotta get I'm gonna get Live at Pompeii, I'm gonna get The Wall live performed in 1989, and then I'm gonna get Us and Them, and then I'm gonna get Pulse, and then I'm gonna get the Final Cut. So like if you go in with this mindset of I want to be like the Uber fan and I want to own everything, just keep in mind, like, you're not preserving anything. Okay, like, unless it is exceptionally particular to you, you don't need to preserve it. Pink Floyd is fine. Okay, Bob Dylan is fine. Okay, all these classic rock artists, almost any artist you can think of that is not like an indie artist, they are fine. Okay, you don't need to complete their entire library to, curate the ultimate experience, the ultimate Bob Marley collection, the ultimate this collection. Because believe me, there's always going to be somebody who has a little bit more than you. That's something that I've recognized as a collector of retro media. I will see these bonkers videos that are clearly made by people with, significantly more financial latitude than I have. And they're like building straight up video stores in their basement. movie theaters in their basement. And, some people are more thrifty and more handy, and so they're able to make these things happen for less. But overall, I would say that keep in mind, you need to be happy with what you have. You don't need to be chasing this dream of having the ultimate collection, because completism is really only beneficial to you if you're really passionate about that thing. So for me, my Warren Zevon records, I'm very passionate about that. I want all of his stuff. And so it brings me joy to have them. Moving on. Now, in the end, I'm pretty happy with the way all of this turned out. It's just really nice not to have shelves up against furniture. And if you look at the inside, you can see that I managed to fit quite a bit of stuff. So I'm pretty excited to show you this first shelf where I put a lot of pop music, music videos, concert films, stuff like that. I'm really excited to have it all together. I really struggled with which shelf should be the top, and I really decided that being these are all CDs, I should stick with pop music. And one of the first DVDs that I got from like a pop musician or what have you was this Eminem DVD. It's got a lot of really cool music videos, including Way I Am, Stan, Real Slim Shady, just a bunch of classics from his first 2 albums. So it's always been a really cool set. Now, I also have that Green Day CD DVD set that I told you about that my grandmother gave me. It means the world. I also have this fantastic Killer set. And speaking of that Killer set, the person who gave me the Female Rage CD, here's that, was once telling me about how much she enjoys that Killer set. And then, of course, we have that Dean Gray CD. So these are all CDs that are irreplaceable, and I thought they deserved a star-studded spot. And speaking of star-studded spots, on each of my shelves, I've tried to showcase one particular DVD, CD, tape, what have you. I've gotten into that habit lately because I feel it makes a shelf breathe a little more. So on this shelf, I chose to showcase my copy of Big D and the Kids Tables, Built Up From Nothing. This is an amazing career retrospective that Big D and the Kids Table put out. It has documentaries about their albums Strictly Rude, Fluent and Stroll, For the Damned, the Dumb, and the Delirious, and it's also got some videos about their early career, short film from the lead singer, and music videos as well as live footage. 3 DVDs, a comprehensive set, and I love it. When I was younger, I was doing some work in Arkansas, and it was for a family friend, and with my wages, one day we were at Walmart. I saw the music video for Another Brick in the Wall on the preview stand and bought that Pink Floyd, The Wall DVD. And for me, the rest is history. It's one of my favorite albums of all time. And it's an amazing DVD with a beautiful case and pretty stellar menus. Now, moving on down to the next shelf, I have my U2 collection. And as you can see, I have a substantial amount of U2 CDs that I kind of debated what to do with. But I decided that my U2 collection, in a lot of ways, is like a microcosm. It's its own collection unto itself. And so I decided to pull it all together onto a shelf in this music case. And I'm really happy to see it all together for the first time in a very long time. Showcasing U2 Zoo TV, one of my absolute favorite concert films of all time. The follow-up to Zoo TV is pretty darn cool. So I have this Pop Mart 1997, I want to say, or 1998 tour. It's U2 Pop Mart Live from Mexico City, and this case is just so cool. I love how shiny it is. I love how it's kind of like a slipcase, so you pull it out, and it's just got this thematically stellar presentation. It says pop everywhere. There's like little pops, and then you got to see this. Wait for it. They even include a pop-up page of their guitarist, The Edge. All right, and looking down at the third level, I have my like kind of strange mixture of musicals and movies that are also featuring musicians or musical elements. And so the one I'm showcasing here is one of my favorite little musicals. It's called Dr. Horrible's Sing-Along Blog. This DVD set is particularly stellar. Dr. Horrible was made during the writer's strike in, I want to say, 2009. Getting a DVD copy of it is cool because originally it was released for free on the internet, so it's got some cool special features. More traditional musicals and soundtracks, I have a number of CDs, as you can see, and the big one that I have to shout out is The Producers. And if there's one musical I have to shout out, it's The Producers. I mean, I love it. I grew up with it being a big deal when I was in middle and high school as far as the theater scene. This was kind of the right before the Wicked wave of theater kids. And so, yeah, I really just love that CD. Brings back memories. Another pretty cool thing from high school, not the DVD itself, but the film, The Cradle Will Rock, details the efforts of Orson Welles to stage a musical that was ultimately banned. Was made by Tim Robbins, and it really does fire on all cylinders as it looks at a Depression-era America where federal workers' projects like the theater project that Orson Welles is directing through and the musical The Cradle Will Rock is being funded by, and seeing this kind of mosaic of the community of at that time in New York and all of the disparate political elements from Susan Sarandon playing a woman that sympathizes with Mussolini's fascist administration in Italy, to Diego Rivera being commissioned by Nelson Rockefeller to complete a mural at Rockefeller Plaza, to the workers who are kind of caught in the shuffle of all of these kind of Red Scare situations that are emerging in the Depression. And so The Cradle Will Rock itself is not actually adapted in the film. It's a film about the people who lived around the time this musical was produced. But in high school, we actually performed the musical that is the subject of this fictionalized historical film. The really amazing thing was that when we performed this in high school, it was such a radically different musical than the kind you usually get to perform. And it was one of the best experiences I had in high school, bar none. I gotta point out, Pump Up the Volume, amazing movie about a teenage DJ that challenges the status quo in his local suburban school district. Harry Hardon is an inspiration. Talk hard, steal the air. If you know, you know. Another pretty interesting set is my Bob Hope, Bing Crosby, Dorothy Lamour on the road films. These movies are part Star Vehicle, part musical, part kind of Hollywood cash grab. They set the template for a lot of what came after. There's the animated film Road to El Dorado made by DreamWorks Animation, which largely borrows from these. For my part, I really appreciate the old-style comedy that Bob Hope brings to their pairing. Additionally, the musical numbers, augmented by Bing Crosby's crooner voice and Dorothy Lamour's fantastic vocals, go a long way, on top of the fact that the Andrews Sisters and other musicians make appearances. Barb and Star Go to Vista Del Mar is simply one of the most delightful major releases with musical elements of recent memory. And despite the fact that it may seem dissimilar
from the Bob Hope Bing Crosby films, I think it actually stylistically shares a lot with them. I had a very dear friend who passed away and adored the Mamma Mia films. And one thing that I learned in watching both of those films with her and later with my grandma who passed away shortly after was you just got to take the joyful wins. You know, take an afternoon and watch Mamma Mia. Have a good time. Sing along with the people you love, you know. You know, it's like Captain Picard said, you know, those moments may never come again. Now, this is kind of a wild card film that I feel doesn't get brought up enough. Now, I'm super fond of a lot of different biopics about musicians, but Yankee Doodle Dandy is the original biopic. This movie pioneered so many aspects of the modern musical biopic. Now, maybe other films did it before, but this is one of the earliest films I know of that features an elderly musician reflecting on their entire life story a la Dewey Cox. Except this person is a profoundly influential musician that really was famous before film and recording made it possible for him to be immortalized. And so instead, we get James Cagney acting largely against type because he was playing gangsters mostly in a musical where he dances and sings extensively. It's one of my favorite films of all time, and it's an amazing piece of musical theater combined with film. Now, one film that I ended up watching with my grandmother before she passed away is San Francisco, which is a profoundly interesting film. It reminds me a lot of Titanic if Titanic had maybe, been made in that time period. One of the most amazing things about it is that it goes from being this big band musical into being a disaster film when the earthquake hits San Francisco. Amazing film. All right, so that's that shelf. Moving on. Now, on my bottom shelf, I kind of have two split sections. On the left, I have what I could describe as queer or queer adjacent musicals, rock pieces, films that involve music. And then on the right side, I have some overflow of my Broadway musical type stuff and old big band musical box sets. Okay, on display I got Hedwig and the Angry Inch, the DVD, and I also have the CD. Love the music from this film. Wig on a Shelf is one of my favorite songs from any musical. Earth Girls Are Easy is a kind of a cult classic. It's this really funny comedy about a woman who breaks up with her boyfriend and then falls in love with an alien. It's got this pop soundtrack featuring Nile Rodgers and this woman named Julie Brown, who was kind of like a less serious version of Cyndi Lauper. Now, in addition to co-starring in this film, Julie Brown writes the pop songs that are performed musical style in the film and additionally has a story by credit for the concept. I love this one. I'm really happy with how these turned out, especially given the fact that I was able to mix in some media that I hadn't even considered sorting in with my CDs. All right, and here is the top shelf. I'm pretty happy with how it turned out, having that mermaid lamp on the left. And to the left of it, I have that copy of Big D and the Kids Table, Fluent and Stroll, signed by their lead singer. And over on the right, I have my copy of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. Showcased up at the top, I have the Flobots' debut album, Fight with Tools. It is a fantastic album. It's I think that in some ways it's kind of like the millennial boom stomp clap, but
it's I think it's much more earnest. I think it's a lot more innovative. I think that the back and forth between Johnny Five and Brer Rabbit is just unmatched. There's some phenomenal lyrics. There's some great instrumentation. There's a really wonderful palette to it between some of the guitar-driven tracks and the viola-driven tracks. It's a significant, not just album of my generation. It's a significant Colorado album. So I saw them recently in Greeley, and Andy Guerrero was really, really cool to talk to. I had never, I'd never gotten the chance to speak to any members of the Flowbots, and he was like the first guy to like kind of, mingle with the crowd, and shortly followed by the other band members. Got to talk to Brer Rabbit for a fat minute, and he's such a chill dude. After he signed my CD, he insisted on signing my American flag bandana. And so it was a very warm experience. Additionally, Johnny Five was kind enough to also sign my CD. So pretty amazing to have this CD with so much history. And I just wanted to feature it prominently. If you haven't heard Flowbots Fight with Tools, check out the title track. Additionally, Same Thing is fantastic. Stand Up, Rise. It's a heck of an album. Can't recommend it enough. One thing about the setup that I'm really happy about are these little shelf pieces. Now, these CD holding shelf pieces were a part of the unit, and I took them out to make room for those weird CDs. But instead of throwing them away because they would be irreplaceable, I put them up behind the left and right showcased CDs, and I feel like it generates a flow upward. So like you're thinking, kind of like I was talking about with Feng Shui, you're looking at the CDs and your mind goes up, and it doesn't just break at the top of the CD shelf. Instead, those grates kind of make your perception of the shelf fade as you look upward. So I'm pretty happy with how this video turned out, although I must admit, this project took a little longer than I anticipated, both the CD case and the video. In the meantime, since the last video I made, I've gone back to school and I've been studying editing, so you may have noticed that there's a lot more shots, there's a lot more editing going on, and I'm happy about that, and I am aware of the fact that it took a while for me to come out with a new video, but I know that it's not going to take nearly as long for the next one, and I'm excited about that. I love having all of my CDs accessible, organized, purged of filler. I look over and I see how revitalized this space is, and it just brings me so much joy. It's open, bright, it's organized. Now my CD collection is filled with possibility, rather than it just being another collection that I haven't given much attention to for years. And it's inspiring me to look towards my other collections and thinking of ways that I can invigorate those with this same energy. By incorporating DVDs into the mix, I was really able to inject even more purpose into this little corner of my media collections, and I honestly couldn't be happier. This is Forrest Ollinger from Millennial Milktoast, asking you to like, share, subscribe to the channel, and maybe even comment on this video. Let me know your thoughts. I look forward to hearing them. Until next time.